Hello, Reject Nation, I'm Greg Alba.
And I'm Jonald M. Humphrey.
You know what I'm not afraid of?
What, Greg?
Racism.
Oh, me too.
I welcome it.
I
if it's
defy you to be
directly
racist
attacking me
toward me.
I don't welcome it upon others. Tweet me.
Being a white guy, you gotta be ready.
I am not afraid of spoilers. Why? Cold Crash Pictures. One of our top reward tiers on Patreon is whatever video you request. We must definitely. I'm trying to make sure we're both centered, so when we do the crop ins, it's equal. Whatever reward tier you want on Patreon is, it could be this one. Basically, whatever video you request, is definitely doing put up on YouTube. We're gonna do why I'm not afraid of spoilers. Let's do this.
So today I'm going to talk about something that came up a lot in the last couple of years on my blog, namely, why I'm not afraid of spoilers. Generally, I prefer to go into a film not being spoiled, but even if it is, I usually don't mind that much. In fact, sometimes I actively seek out spoilers.
He must be a film buff.
It's hard to make a video about
DVDs,
spoilers without spoiling anything. So I will warn you right now, I am going to spoil the following two films in this video.
I saw one of those.
I've seen a lot of smoking.
So, what is a spoiler? A spoiler is telling somebody what to expect from a movie before you go see it. Which means there are different levels.
Once you see it, you're like, oh.
Different magnitudes, if you will. Let's take The Sixth Sense as an example. If I told you that Bruce Willis actually died in the opening scene, and he's been haunting Haley Joel Osment for the whole film, you'd no doubt consider that a spoiler. But what if all I told you was that the ending is bittersweet? What if all I told you is that it's a supernatural thriller with a romantic subplot? What if all I told you is that it's a Shyamalan film? An early Shyamalan film. At what point does information about the film go from just information about the film to a full-blown spoiler? Don't we all want at least some form of spoiling before we go see a film? I'm talking about something as basic as knowing what genre it is, because genre is a spoiler. A mild spoiler, but a spoiler nonetheless. When we say romantic comedy, neo-noir, historical drama, it puts a series of expectations in our heads. It's not exactly giving away the ending, but it is a form of cluing us in to the content of the film. Speaking of giving away the ending, back in the olden days, no, the real olden days, there were only two genres, comedy and tragedy. And back then, comedy didn't mean funny haha. Why else would they call Dante's Inferno the first act of a divine comedy?
Dante.
No, back then, comedy meant it ends happily, as opposed to tragedy, which meant exactly what it means today. Which is way more information than modern reviewers tend to want to reveal when they talk about any given film. It's gotten so bad we can't even say what a film's about anymore. You look at the back of a movie box, and if it isn't filled with just the vaguest of vagaries written by some publicist in the bowels of the Marvel Studios mailroom, at best, they might finish summarizing the first act for you. And if the first act ends with any sort of surprise, any morsel of intrigue, they stop right there. And you have no idea what to expect from the rest of the film, except for whatever its genre designation might suggest. I like knowing how a film is going to make me feel before I go see it. That's why I think we should bring back the whole comedy, tragedy designation. Or at least not shy away from it like it's the plague. Going still further, not only do I not mind knowing how a film is going to make me feel, oftentimes I like knowing how the film expects to make me feel that way. Which is where full-on plot summaries come in. If I'm particularly interested in knowing why MoviePhone.com thinks the barrel ride sequence in The Desolation of Smaug is going to blow my mind, I will read a full plot summary on Wikipedia and see if I agree. Here's why I think most people have a strong visceral gut reaction to avoiding spoilers at all costs. The reason is because you can only watch a film for the first time once, and people want the viewing to be special. And for a lot of people, what makes it special is not knowing what comes next. I know people like that. They'll see a film once and then they can never see it again, and that's fine. This isn't a video about why everybody should spoil films for themselves. This is just a video about why I don't always mind them. And if you want to see some pretty remarkable thoughts that aren't my own on this subject, go read the Wikipedia page, which explains why they don't use spoiler alerts on any of their articles. And on a more personal soapboxy note, I believe that reading detailed plot summaries before you go see a film can spare you from watching a lot of crappy movies. There's a problem in Hollywood, which I'm sure I'll go into in a future video, but it basically boils down to this. Movies are expensive. They cost a lot to make, and producers want as much of a guaranteed return on their investments as they can get. So they hire multiple writers to tinker with a film's plot with the logic that, hey,
writers
2
look like.
experts are better than 1,
That's every writer.
and 5 are better than 2. But movie scripts aren't built by focus groups. They're built by artisans, and multiple competing visions can easily spoil a film.
That's
why you've got so many blockbusters these days which seem to pull themselves in so many different directions and water themselves down with a lack of focus. Or they let their imagination sit in the front step, never coming up with anything that hasn't worked for some previous film. Nothing new, nothing exciting, nothing unexpected.
Wow.
When that rare film does come along, the one that ends in a surprising but inevitable way that's never been done in quite the same way before, the film that's secretly been building to an inexorable but logical reveal without cheapening or invalidating what came before it, those are the kinds of films I don't want spoiled for me.
I got that one spoiled.
But everything else, those self-aware twist endings that are just gunning for a twist for twist's sake, no need to waste anyone's time.
People love that twist.
Long story short, I care more about how a film is going to make me feel on the 50th viewing rather than the first.
Look, opinions are subjective.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Yeah. It's an opinion piece. He stated his opinion.
I mean, he's wrong, like, entirely.
Yeah, I hate this man, and I hope that misfortunes befall him for the rest of his life.
I'm just gonna...
Because we disagree, and that's what you do.
hit the dislike button here.
Yeah, and I'm going to find his address, and I'm going to mail him some hate mail.
Go
Fuck yourself.
you stupid, no good idiot of a person. You know, he actually makes some pretty good points. Maybe if he replies back to me with some kindness, I might change my mind, because that's a true sense of character.
Oh, yeah. No, if he replies like I'm a normal human being, I will backpedal as hard as possible. Yeah.
And I will respond with, oh, whoa, I wasn't actually expecting you to reply, but now that you did, I'm sorry.
I was just having a bad day, man, and I saw your video first thing on my bad day, and I just had to say something. But he's got some interesting points of view.
The thing about viewing experiences is they're not all the same. He has some solid points. I guess arguably I would care more about how a film was going to make me, going off his last thing here, I would care more about how a film's going to make me feel on the 50th time as opposed to the first time. But damn, do I care about that first time. I care a lot about that first time.
Yeah.
Like, me personally, I hate spoilers.
I hate spoilers.
I think sometimes people get a little ridiculous about, you know, what's a spoiler? I remember for our Infinity War movie review, we both said, like, Black Panther is kind of underutilized.
You're certainly focusing on him a lot when he pops up, but doing less things than when you pop in on most everybody else.
Someone's like, isn't that a spoiler? I'm like,
It's not a specific
why?
plot detail, and it doesn't. Yeah, it's like it's not something that you can look at the movie and like automatically decode.
If the part of the trailer is selling you on they go to Wakanda, Black Panther's in it, and I give you a heads up that, hey, he's not in this movie a lot.
This ain't the Black Panther 2 movie, you know?
I feel like you might actually get a more rewarding experience because you're not
managing-
expecting Black Panther to be in there for a lot of the film.
Yeah,
so what you get will be
expectations are
good.
managed,
Yeah.
I come down in a weird way on this one because I get where he's coming from, and I do agree that, yeah, we should be thinking about what the 50th viewing will be like, because now more than ever I feel like movies have become so much bigger and more extravagant and yet somehow more disposable, because given is just that now there will always be another one waiting if this one does well and it's already in the works, and the only way it's not going to happen is if this goes catastrophically bad. I do appreciate what he's saying here, and I feel like that's a theory that I would maybe meet him halfway on at best for those movies where I'm like, I'm on the fence about this, I could go either way about actually seeing it, but if I read the plot breakdown and it turns out that I'm pretty fascinated, I might go. But if it's a movie I care about, I don't want to just those things distract me. If it's like I know there's a plot point coming up, I'm gonna sit there with it in my mind, you know? Yeah, we all want some form of spoiling, as he says. Like, that's what his trailer is. I think what he calls some form of spoiling is just a hint, you know, like, here's a vague idea of the experience you might have, and I agree with that.
Well, especially for the big films, they always tease the finales. The fucking big shot of Avengers when
they're like circling around.
I'm like, that's like my favorite shot's the major tracking shot where it's going all around the battle, but the big posing shot is in the trailer. You know?
We know that in the finale they'll probably all work together and save the day. And that's also something too, because I feel like I would feel differently towards a big blockbuster that I know is was going to follow certain major beats versus something more off the beaten path that could take a sharp left turn, something with a twist like The Sixth Sense. It's like I wouldn't want to know that going in, because surprise is an element, I think, that is important to certain movies, and I appreciate for most all movies.
He had this line here. He said it two different ways, but they're implying the same thing. He's like,
I like knowing how a film is going to make me feel before I go see it.
Or
I like knowing how the film expects to make me feel that way.
And how it's going to make me feel that way.
There's two very different statements, though.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, no one can tell you how this movie's going to make you feel. How they expect you to feel, that one makes a lot more sense to me in terms of marketing, opinions, Rotten Tomatoes being factored in, all those elements. And for me, generally, I do like that. Like, I feel like a trailer is good enough for me. If I really don't want anything spoiled, I might just see the Rotten Tomatoes consensus, the blurb.
Not the capsule reviews or anything.
I would just see the tomato meter and go, whoa, what? Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse looking pretty good, you know?
106%, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't actually read any of that, because I'm like, I just want to see what this movie's all about. Everyone's loving it so much. Drive was the same thing. I didn't read anything on Drive, and I didn't see a trailer. Drive was the opposite experience. I didn't see a trailer, but I saw Rotten Tomatoes, saw how high of a score it was. I kept seeing stuff like cool art house action and stuff. All right, this sounds cool. I'll check it out. And then I ended up loving it. Ultimately, I don't think, because he has a point too about what is being spoiled. Blade Runner 2049 got spoiled for me minutes before we watched it. Watching the movie, I was still able to really enjoy it. I was bothered by the fact that reveals were given to me right before. I was really annoyed about that. Yeah. And so it would occasionally pull me out knowing what the ultimate reveal is, since it's building up to that. But so many films are about journey. It's true. A lot of times that these films that hinge on plot twists might not be as effective the second time you watch it, because, oh wow, this film hinged so much on that twist.
Yeah.
Hinged so much on that reveal that it's not even that enjoyable of a journey.
And depending on your genre, too, it's like tension comes from mystery. So if you've just read the whole movie, it's up to the tone now to do all of the tension.
Yeah.
Basically. I get why some people wouldn't have a hard time, reading a plot summary and just going into a movie and enjoying it. And I've seen things where I've had endings spoiled or moments that are huge spoiled that have still been effective, or that when I watched the episode or the movie, I didn't see the moment coming in the moment. But at the same time, I don't share this approach in opinion,
I'm about to talk about a movie called Moulin Rouge. You guys can skip ahead if you want to. Have you seen Moulin Rouge?
Yeah. Yeah, a few times.
Before I saw Moulin Rouge, I was told Nicole Kidman dies. Before I saw it. And then the person, I forget who told me, but the person said, they say it in the beginning, she dies. I was like, whatever. I watched the movie. I know she's going to die. Beginning movie, you find out she's going to die. And then before she dies, I'm going, I hope she doesn't die. Yeah. It's like the mark of a great prequel. When you're like, well, I know how this is going to pan out.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to, know?
True that.
It's like a prequel in and of itself is technically filled with spoilers because of the fact that it's a prequel.
Because we know that at least these people won't die, and they'll demonstrate certain of the same abilities next time.
And if anything, you get a Fantastic Beasts 2 situation where they infuse new plot elements, or wait a minute, what? That's kind of confusing based on the lore. Not every time a spoiler will ruin a movie, and sometimes the thing is, going back to what I originally started talking about, every viewing experience is different here. Sometimes it won't be a bother, and then other times it's going to be a real bother, Yeah. To know that.
Yeah, well, for me, I don't know. For me, just taking in those things, it's hard not to think about them. So for my mind as a moviegoer, I know that the more details I put into it beforehand, the less I'm just going to be in the moment watching the movie, and that's important to me.
A movie based on a true story, you could look up the true story. And if a movie's accurate to the story, you know what's going to happen,
Yeah. There are so many ways to approach the argument of spoilers when you have so many different genres that hinge on so many different things. And there are movies that are formulaic to a point where the point is not that they're going to defy the formula. And so in those cases, I'm like, sure, whatever. I could probably guess the plot, but it's about how they communicate the plot. And I like the way he touched on that idea too, that it's how it wants to make you feel. And then, by reading the plot, you see how it's going to do that, how it wants to achieve that feeling for you. I think his point of view is...
So much pre-context before watching a movie, though.
I appreciate this guy's point of view, and I think he did a good job articulating it. I just don't share it very much.
Yeah, I don't share that
like,
level of viewing experience.
Because for me, it's like my viewing experience is kind of the opposite of everything.
Because the thing is like, I don't think ultimately spoilers should deter you from watching a movie. I would never be like, it got spoiled, I'm never gonna watch this movie. I already know what happened. Like I personally hate that. Someone's like, I know the ending. It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna watch it.
If it's a good movie, yeah, you should just check it out.
Because there's always so much more to that.
And there's a lot more work than just one plot point, you know.
Always.
In an experience.
Always.
That.
But I also think that the filmmakers generally want you to just watch it with little to no knowledge.
Fresh
yeah. So that way it's all fresh. I think about like if the artists, the creators, all the countless people, whether it's the artists or the focus groups who put this bad boy together, they're going to want you to really experience it the proper way, which is little to no spoilers.
I think what I appreciate most about this, though, is that the title is called Why I'm Not Afraid of Spoilers, and I feel like spoilers have become this very contentious, very angsty topic because, you know, we've all had a moment where somebody spoiled something in a show or movie we care about, and it does make you mad if you cared. I do feel like there are certain ways in which we could, you know, diffuse some of that anger through at least some of this perspective, you know, even if I don't fully agree with him.
I like this guy.
Uh-huh.
I do. Yeah, I'm going to delete that comment.
It's a good opinion piece. Yeah, you know what? Why don't we pull it back?
I didn't write anything.
It's a good opinion piece. No, you should have seen the screen. It was just like all the keystroke commands were doing different things, and then after a second it was like, okay, let's not type so hard.
Kurt Anderson is the guy who requested this. Kurt, our nomad friend, who I don't understand how he has a cellular device when he's on the road constantly.
Burners, man.
I'm like, burners. I think I asked him once, like, where does your money come from? And I don't remember because this guy's just always like traveling for leisure.
It's like Supernatural. He's just got costumes and fraudulent credit cards.
Like he's never on business trips. He's just traveling for leisure across the world. Back in the world right now.
Maybe he just rolls up in a town, you know, gets a little part-time gig, you know, like sleeps someplace low maintenance.
I mean, I've seen his Instagram. The guy's in shape. He looks great, chiseled.
I know. He's a sexy man, right?
Sexy man, Kurt Anderson.
He's not afraid of no spoilers either.
Thanks for sharing us this video, and thanks for sharing that to us. And thanks for introducing us to this channel, man. Appreciate it. Shouts out to Anissa Oliva for giving us these shirts.
Yeah, man.
You guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. And she also gave me this magic 8-ball that you might have heard me annoyingly playing around with here.
Where's my Rubik's Cube?
No, John, there's no time. You didn't prepare. Click that notification bell. Gosh, you frustrate me. Check us out on Patreon. We got a lot of goodies over there where it's all about bonding and love and kindness. I hate having to be fake around you.